Welcome to the ADHD Women's Wellbeing Podcast. I'm Kate Moore-Youssef and I'm a wellbeing and lifestyle coach, EFT practitioner, mum to 4 kids and passionate about helping more women to understand and accept their amazing ADHD brains. After speaking to many women just like me and probably you, I know there is a need for more health and lifestyle support for women newly diagnosed with ADHD. In these conversations, you'll learn from insightful guests, hear new findings and discover powerful perspectives and lifestyle tools to enable you to live your most fulfilled, calm and purposeful life wherever you are on your ADHD journey. Here's today's episode. So hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the ADHD Women's Wellbeing Podcast. And I'm delighted to welcome back a guest that I had right at the very beginning, actually. It must have been about 2 years ago. His name is Joseph Pack. I'm just so happy to have him back. You may know him as the guy, I know him as the guy on LinkedIn, the founder of Drug-Free ADHD. And I'm so excited to have you back, Joseph, because we spoke back when I guess we were both newly diagnosed and we were kind of uncovering lots of things for ourselves. And we're a few years down the line and you were just telling me, since our last conversation that a lot's changed for you. So I'm excited to hear more. Welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah, it's very exciting to be back again. I've said to you before, I think that was the first interview I ever did on ADHD. So it's great to come back like full circle now.
And I love what you've done since we've spoken, because you've really taken your core foundational beliefs about managing your own ADHD, the drug-free method. You embrace modalities such as cold water, breath work, nature, movement, working with your brain, working with your energy, morning routines, all things like that, like everything that's just like I absolutely love. And I know that's why we've got so much synergy between us. And you have, I guess, made it, you've gone deeper and deeper over these, couple of years. Tell me a little bit about, I guess, first of all, I'm going to say to the listeners, if you haven't listened to the initial episode, I'm going to go back and put it in the show notes. So if you really want to hear Joseph's background, understand, what led him to his ADHD diagnosis, the health crisis that, helped him sort of change the way his whole lifestyle was, go back and listen to the initial episode. But I guess I want to ask you, what is different in your life now, over these past couple of years since we last spoke?
Well, to begin with, I think there are many days where I struggle to find where ADHD even is in me. And I find myself getting lulled into a false sense of security, though I feel like it's gone. And then what I'm saying here is I'm talking about the negative traits of ADHD, so impulsivity. In fact, I genuinely don't remember the last time I did anything impulsive. It must be over a year ago, easily.
And to just contrast that, beforehand, there was a lot.
I think I'm pretty sure I said it on the last episode, which is before I got diagnosed with ADHD, which is 2016, 2017. In early 2016, I was walking through Manchester and just randomly picked up a rock from a skip and threw it down the street and it smashed someone's window. And I know I was a 26-year-old man at the time. I shouldn't be doing something. No one should be doing something so ridiculous. But just to give an indication of the level of impulsivity in this and the seeking of excitement and danger that was present within me as a teenager and then into my mid-20s it was obscene. So to be the way I am now is a shock to me. And it's actually only, I suppose, in interviews like this where I start to actually think deeply about how much I've changed.
Something that you do very well is you curate a lifestyle, a daily lifestyle. And I know no one's perfect. And I know people can, depending on whether we've slept well that night and all different variables. But I know that you are a big proponent of a morning routine. And I just wondered, when did you get that awareness to kind of think, what? If my morning starts well, then there's a knock-on effect. And maybe we can have a little chat about your morning routine and see how the listeners might be able to, take some of those things and apply them to their morning.
Yeah. So, morning routine is, like you say, it's absolutely essential because we start the day off on the right footing. And for me, that is doing something hard, doing something that where there is a lot of resistance built up inside. So that could be getting into an ice bath, or more regularly for me is getting in a cold shower. So I'll usually get in the cold shower, finish the cold shower, then I'll do some exercises to warm my body back up again. Then I'll walk straight into my office and do meditation and breathing. I run a meditation accountability group at 7:30 a.m. every single day. So 365 days a year. And that is 25 or 30 people on it this morning, all with ADHD, all that have learned to meditate, that all do it almost every single morning. People are very consistent with it. And what that entire routine is doing is I walk into the bathroom and I see the shower and all I want is a hot shower. But if I take the cold shower, I've done something I don't want to do, which is very, very important. And I have a poster on my wall back there. I don't think you can see it. It says, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences." And what that is the first line of the third Zen patriarch, a poem from the 12th century, a Zen Buddhist poem. And the whole point of the poem is that, for basically the reverse of that, for people who have strict preferences for how they want their life to go, they will suffer. Now, this goes all the way back to Buddha. When you look at his noble truths, the first two noble truths, number one, all of life is suffering. Number two, all suffering is caused by desire. Well, desire is another word for preference. If you flip that on its head, instead of saying no preferences, you could say the great way, and that means enlightenment, which is not what we're necessarily aiming for, but at least complete contentment, peace, happiness, whatever you want to call it, isn't difficult for those who prefer everything. What does that mean? It just means if you can go through your life being open to every event, then life will become easy, genuinely easy, because you're not trying to control what other people say. You're not trying to control what other people do. You're not trying to control what happens to your outcomes. Life becomes easy. Okay. Why is that important for a morning routine? And why is that particularly important for a cold shower? I don't want to get, even to this day, I'm not going to lie, I do not want to get in that cold shower. I've been doing it for years, but I do it because it builds grit, determination for the rest of the day. I'm beginning my day by doing something that I don't want to do. I have a preference to not do it. I'm breaking that barrier. And then once I've done that, I then go and do breathing and meditation. So then I'm so ready for the day at that point. This is key. But of course, building a morning routine isn't easy. So we have to do that steadily. So you can't just start tomorrow going, this is what people with ADHD will do all the time. Right, I'm having a cold shower, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to do meditation. No, I absolutely do not recommend doing that, because it will last a few days and then you'll hate it. You won't want to do it anymore.
So you're saying that we start with just the one thing, and we do that for a few days, a week.
30 days, most likely, is probably best.
Yeah. And would you recommend, if someone struggles with that cold shower, to say, right, if you have a warm shower and then you turn it down and do the last 30 seconds cold, and then kind of like build up to that until you can just have the cold shower?
Yeah. Normal hot shower, just as you always would. Then you say, 30 seconds, even less, 20 seconds is probably okay the first time you do it, maybe even for the first week. Before you're about to turn it to cold, start breathing a little bit more deeply. Just start getting the breath ready for the cold that's about to hit your body. And then when you're ready, just turn it fully to cold, no hesitation, and just rinse the whole body as quickly as possible. Then get out and then get the towel wrapped around your body.
So what you're saying, I can handle the cold water. That to me is like, I can do that. But when you say to me 7:30 meditation, there was something in my body that just was like, there was resistance there, like massive resistance, because for me, 7:30 in the morning is bus, kids, breakfast. It's just like an adrenaline fueled kind of half an hour, 45 minutes. And I don't have time, or I say to myself, I don't have time to meditate at 7:30 in the morning. I could meditate at 6:30 in the morning for sure, but I choose not to. And I'm going to put, my hands up here that I struggle with my phone, because I'll turn it on off airplane mode. quickly, see, and I have to use so much self-restraint and kind of strength to then not go into the depths of Instagram and reply to messages. And before I know it, I've just my brain's just been sucked into that horrendous social media juggernaut. So I'm really interested to know what type of meditation you advocate for ADHD people, because if someone can say, right, I can do this meditation, I just can't do it at 7:30, where do people start with ADHD friendly meditation?
Well, the interesting thing about what you've just said there is that if we meditate a lot, say every day, once a day is enough, but twice a day would be fantastic, we develop awareness, more deeper awareness. And as our attention span increases and our awareness increases, because it's not just because you could have I historically have had a very good attention span. That's never been my issue. I've always been able to focus on things. I've just focused on the wrong things for 8 hours solid and then not got what I was supposed to get done. So attention isn't enough. We also need awareness. The awareness to spot that we're doing something we shouldn't be doing and break out of it, which is like, for example, scrolling through Instagram as an example. Meditation, this type of meditation I'm about to talk about, will build that awareness. So you could be 30 seconds into it, scrolling through Instagram and go, oh, you catch yourself. You go, okay, I'm going to just put it down. You feel the discomfort in the body of putting it down because really you want to keep scrolling. And then you just sit with that discomfort for a minute or so, and then it will go away on its own. But it only goes away on its own by doing nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can come back to that. So the technique to get you there, again, I understand why it's difficult to meditate at 7:30 a.m. every single day. But if you want to do it in your own time, meditation is really very simple. It's all about creating an object of attention. So in lots of Buddhist types of meditation, you'll focus on your breath. So, and sometimes it can be very subtle, like you're actually focusing on the breath as it touches your upper lip. It's an extremely subtle sensation. Some types of meditation, people will hold beads and run them through their fingers. So they're just concentrating on that feeling of the beads running through the fingers. Other types of meditation, again, people will light a candle and they'll just stare at the flame flickering. Again, it's all about, all three of those are different objects of attention. Well, with ADHD, that's quite difficult because the mind is so frantic, it's incessant chatter, that by using an object of attention that is not mind, is not in the mind, it gives the incessant mind chance to just go more crazy, really. So the antidote to that is to use a mantra instead, and a very specific type of mantra, because that's another thought. So actually a mantra is just giving the busy mind something to compete with. And another mistake, I think, that a lot of people think about meditation is that it's about having an empty mind. It's about clearing your thoughts. No, that is a recipe for disaster. It's never going to happen. And in fact, I would say that with most neurotypical people, they're not even achieving that empty mind state. Empty mind is something that's reserved for the Buddha or for a Buddha, which would be an enlightened person. And that's not to say that some people listening to this may one day get there. They may one day. It's available to everybody. Forget quieting thoughts completely. Like they are not present in this ADHD-friendly meditation. So basically we repeat this mantra, and you could just use something as simple as I can handle this. I can handle this. I can handle this. I can handle this. Repeating that silently in your head. At the same time as you are willfully repeating those words, and the busy mind will kick in. Oh, this is boring. Oh, I really don't want to be doing this. Oh, I've got to get the kids here. Oh, I forgot to do this. Blah, 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 blah. Continue repeating the mantra. Keep doing it. Don't try and make those thoughts stop. Every time you notice that you're being pulled into the busy mind, just acknowledge that's happened and gently guide yourself back to the mantra. You may have to do this 30, 40 times in one meditation session. Each time you do it is like a bicep curl for your awareness, a bicep curl for your attention. Keep doing that every single day. In a month, it might be 15 times that you get dragged into automatic thoughts. It'll never be zero. There's always going to be some chatter going on in the background. In fact, the mind can chatter for the whole meditation session, so long as the mantra doesn't stop, and you will still get huge benefits from it. So, but if you keep doing this again, say for 6 months or more, and you're very consistent, all of a sudden a shift occurs. You who are in there aware of the busy mind is now further away from the busy mind than you were 6 months ago. So it doesn't matter what it says. You know it's not you, and you don't take anything it's saying seriously. In fact, things that used to upset you now make you laugh, literally laugh out loud. I've been just walking down the street and laughed my head off at the things it says to me. That's a turning point. That's a realization that, in fact, does that mind ever need to be quiet? And in fact, I've heard some genuine enlightened yogi masters say that their voice in their head is still not quiet, but they're enlightened. But the reason they're enlightened and I'm not is because they know definitively that the voice in their head is not them. It's just a passenger that lives with them, basically.
They've had that opportunity through the meditation to detach from the mind that we have been conditioned to believe is true and is part of us, and to not have any separation from. So we've just believed that everything that we hear and think is the truth. It's the absolute truth. And from what I understand and know from meditation, from my own experience, is that we can have that detachment and we can question it and get curious, like as to, and like you say, we can start kind of going, I'm not sure that's true. So if you're a long-time listener to the podcast, you'll know that I'm a big advocate of managing my ADHD symptoms holistically. And this is through daily supplements, which have always played a big part in supporting my mental and physical health. And one of the natural supplement ranges I rely on most days is the Herb Tender. And I'm delighted to have them sponsor this episode of the podcast. Now, the Herb Tender's naturally effective supplements are powered with intelligent adaptogens to help your body deal with the everyday stresses of life with ADHD. Many of us will resonate. And these remarkable herbs and mushrooms, including lion's mane and reishi, which is a powerful way to support your focus and your mood and your nervous system naturally. Now, the Herb Tender's different supplements have been transformative for me. They've helped with my sleep, my focus, my anxiety, my mood. And this week, I want to give a special mention to their Focus and Clarity range. So the Herb Tender's award-winning Focus and Clarity supplement is jam-packed with high-quality natural ingredients for busy brains with ADHD. Now, take Focus and Clarity in the morning for helping you to stay focused and calm, whatever the challenge is the day throws at you. And like I said, it was award-winning. It won the Best Functional Mushroom Supplement of 2024 at the Get Gloss Awards. It's no fluff, no filler, just really high quality, expertly formulated with natural ingredients, which include lion's mane, rhodelia, holy basil, rosemary, lemon balm, kotukala, and sea greens. And a favourite among people with noisy, busy brains and extreme schedules, which I can relate to. Focus and Clarity helps me keep calm under pressure. It helps me focus on my deadlines and concentrate for longer. So if you are ready to enjoy a calmer and healthier, more regulated, more focused lifestyle using these all-natural supplements, I highly recommend you visit the Herb Tender's website and save 15% using the code KATE15. That's Kate15. Head to the Herb Tender. It's www.the-herbtender.com and use Kate15. That's Kate15 to get 15% off. Now back to today's podcast. I'm going to go really practical with your meditation because I think first of all, it's amazing. Are we sitting down, lying down, stood up? Can we move? Like you say, can we have something in our hands? Like, what are the rules? Are there rules?
No, well, sitting down on a chair is fine. Sitting down on a chair, backs of your hands on your laps, palms facing the ceiling. Why would we do that? 2 reasons. One, it opens the chest. So immediately makes the breathing deeper just automatically. But the other thing is it's an open posture. Like if you're closed off, you feel a bit down, you close immediately. You just feel yourself closed. You can just turn your palms over, so your palms facing the ceiling. Stay open like this, no matter how uncomfortable it is. It's just like you're being more receptive to the experience. It seems like nothing, but it makes a massive difference. And having your spine very straight with your arms relaxed makes a huge, huge difference. Raise your chin
feet
slightly.
On the floor.
Feet on the floor. You can do it cross-leg if you want. I don't think you need to, but you can. That just depends whatever you feel like. So either sitting on the floor cross-legged or sitting on a chair. But don't do it standing up. Don't do it walking around. You want to be completely still.
And how long if someone's saying, right, I can do this, and like, where would you say, like, what are the benefits? Can you do it for 5 minutes and get a benefit? Like, what's the kind of the optimum length?
We do 15 minutes on the meditation session in the morning. That's fine. I think 15 minutes is probably optimum. You can go much longer if you want. I think I found that the first 7 or 8 minutes are a settling of the mind. Like, it's really busy. But when I get into like the last 6.5 minutes, I'm really settled. In the last 3 or 4 minutes, I can be getting to the point where there's really nothing going on in there.
So do you think changing our daily routine and even starting from our morning routine can take us from that place where everything just feels chaotic and out of control to, like what you said, where you said actually you're not quite sure where your ADHD is now? It feels like you're not being driven by all these impulses.
Well, the morning routine is like a circuit breaker, really. It's the perfect place to begin if you're really not doing too well right now. And there could be a myriad of reasons why you're not doing well. But let's say perhaps you're very, very impulsive, you're drained, perhaps experience burnout from a job or something like that. But you're not doing any of these things like meditation or breathing or eating well or exercise or whatever it might be. Selecting one very, very simple thing to do tomorrow morning could be laying the foundations for building the next chapter of your life, which is why I recommend picking something very small. Like, I would genuinely, if you want my advice directly for almost anyone here, is do 15 to 20 seconds cold water at the end of a hot shower tomorrow morning. And don't worry about doing anything other than that for a month, 30 days. So start off with 20 seconds. When you're comfortable with that, go to 30 and 40, 50, 60, keep going up. Aim for about 2 minutes in cold by the end of the month. By the time you get to the end of that month, you'll feel quite different. You'll have gone from a person who would think, well, I'm never going to have a cold shower, to someone who's actually enjoying it. I tell you, when you get, almost everybody who gets to 2.5 minutes in a cold shower, they say they really enjoy the process, that they still hate getting in. It's a funny thing. The first 10 to 15 seconds is brutal.
Always brutal.
A minute in, woof, you are alive. And then after 2 or 3 minutes, someone's just come and turned the lights on. The entire room changes. Everything changes. So that's why I recommend cold, and it will then make it so much easier then for the next month to bring something else in, which I would recommend breathing, because breathing techniques, something like, you can go and Google this, parasympathetic breathing, where the only thing that matters is the exhale is significantly longer than the inhale. And what that will do is it will reduce your heart rate, reduce your blood pressure, and reduce your cortisol being stress hormone. And you'll realize, I've just done 2 things that have completely changed the way I feel. And I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to do these things. They didn't cost me anything. It's all completely in my power. And I'm now taking full control. So that then you start to get all these side benefits coming in. Like, I can do this. I'm in control. I can handle this. And yeah, I mean, it's a game changer.
I mean, what you say then about, I can handle this, because I'm going to speak sort of collectively here, that many of us feel like we've been derailed by our undiagnosed ADHD. And we've had a lot of self-criticism and shame and guilt and blame and all of that, thinking that we should have been able to control this. Like, we should have been able to do better, be better. And I've had personality, defects and flaws. And then they get the diagnosis or they get the awareness and go, okay, so now it's ADHD and I can understand what ADHD is and like how it shows up and manifests. And then we're able to bring in these tools that you're talking about to enable us to have even more awareness and to start noticing. And it's kind of giving ourselves that confidence, isn't it, of going, actually, I do know what's best. And maybe with the cold shower, that kind of ignites it a little bit. That gives us, like you say, that grit and that resilience to say, actually, I'm not as defective as I thought I was. I'm not as terrible and all over the place and disorganized, whatever we want to call ourselves. Like, I actually do have ways and options, like you say, that are free, that I don't have to go to a therapist. I don't have to pay loads of money for a course. Like, I can do this. That's incredibly empowering, isn't it?
Big time. And
Yeah.
it even got to the point lately, I mean, maybe 6 months ago, where I said to my wife, and this was my decision, not hers, I'm now no longer going to or allowed to use ADHD as a reason why I've done something. Now, that was a big thing because I'd been defaulting again and again and again and again, saying, I made that mistake because I've got ADHD. I did this wrong because I've got ADHD. I missed this appointment because I've got ADHD. You know, that might actually be the reason why I was doing those things. But it got to a point where I was so aware of it. I was so aware. Like, I knew I was starting to default back to the comfort zone of using ADHD as the reason why it wasn't happening. I said to her, look, I'm still probably going to make some of these mistakes, but I promise you, I am never going to use ADHD as a reason. And you are allowed to tell me off if I do, for my own good, not for hers. And since I stopped doing that, I think that's probably when I started to disconnect from that ADHD diagnosis. And I was a bit like, I don't even know where it is anymore. It was like, and that's where we can get to. I'm convinced of that because, oh my God, I can't even tell you how different I was. I can't tell you how different I was.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because like immediately I'm kind of like, am I triggered by that? Am
I
I
know, I
feeling
get
like,
it.
what does that mean? Because we've probably like had many, many years of our life not understanding why we've done certain things.
Oh
Then we
yeah.
get the ADHD diagnosis. It's an explanation. It gives us some self-compassion. It allows us to forgive ourselves for lots of things. But I really do agree with you, Joseph, that, I try it very hard for myself, like, don't fall into this victimhood mentality. And also with my clients, like, I don't want you to start feeling that you now have ADHD as something that you can just use for everything. And that's why I love these empowering conversations where you've got real practical strategies that we can lean into to improve and help ourselves thrive, because there's no reason why we can't thrive and live much better lives knowing now that we've got ADHD. And using things like the breath work, using the cold water and the meditation, of lessening the impact maybe that our ADHD has in our life. I wonder what how we said at the beginning of our conversation, where you said you're not quite even sure where your ADHD, like, you've kind of disentangled or maybe just accepted that you are just who you are and your brain just is the way it is. Maybe you can explain a little.
Well, first thing I'll just quickly say is I would never have got to this point if I hadn't been diagnosed.
Yeah.
Who knows where I'd be? It's impossible to say. But the diagnosis put me on a trajectory to this point. My wife, on the next point, my wife and I talk about this a lot. I feel genuinely continuously disconnected from the ADHD diagnosis. If we think about it as a disorder of attention, of hyperactivity, I don't have either of those issues anymore. However, what we also say to each other is, I'm neurodivergent. I am neurodivergent. So there's no doubt about that. I mean, I think even the way I ended up getting to this point today, the obsession with meditation, the obsession with learning about all the yogis from history, studying Stoicism, like we were talking about the history of Peloponnesian War, all this kind of thing. That is it's just a seeing the world in a very different way to the average person that I meet, which sometimes and quite often, still to this day, makes me feel an outsider, even in my own friendship group. But the difference between me now and a decade ago is I'm very comfortable with that. A decade ago, I was pretending to be like them, getting myself in all sorts of problems because I'd make jokes that weren't funny or were a little bit too harsh or whatever, because I never really understood the boundaries of it. Now I'm just like, look, I don't really fully get what they're talking about. This just sounds boring and mundane to me, but they're good people. And I'm an outsider and they know that, and I'm okay with it. And that, there was a bit in, because we spoke about Michael Singer on the last interview we did, because I know you like him too. And there's a thing he said where he's like, meditation is really important, but what matters 1,000 times more is what you do when you're not meditating. And I thought about that for about a year. I was like, what does he mean? And I realized about maybe 18 months ago, what he's saying is, If you meditate in the morning, you sort of center yourself, so you're calmer. Then you come out of the meditation, and then all of a sudden life slaps you in the face. The kids are misbehaving. Maybe they're going to be late for school. There are things with work that aren't going so well, blah, blah, blah. All these things are very uncomfortable. Can we handle those? Can we let go of our attachment to how they should be? Can we have fewer preferences about how they should be? If we can continually do that every single day, we do what he calls surrender. He talks about it in the surrender experiment. And all of a sudden, we just change. It's very difficult to explain, but it's like, I don't even want to use the word stronger. I don't think that's it at all. I don't even think the word resilient is right. It's almost like we become anti-fragile. It's like, this is a word that word coined by Nassim Taleb. And what he meant was that in nature, there are things that grow from stress. So in a man-made structure will never grow under stress. So even like a picture like the strongest bridge you could ever imagine, huge bridge, that is an extremely robust structure, but it will break under the right pressure. So if a bomb hits it, for example, it will just break, and it will, But even under some stress, it won't get stronger. The human body gets stronger under stress. Look at weightlifters. They tear their muscle, and it builds the muscle up. The exact same thing happens to our psyche. And that's where ice baths, breathing, meditation, and surrendering, letting go of our initial reaction to things in the middle of the day help us get stronger.
Yeah. And I think about post-traumatic growth. We talk about PTSD a lot, but actually the post-traumatic growth is where you see these amazing people who move out of the most horrific situations. And they are the ones that are inspiring and leading people. And their resilience and their inner strength is helping people navigate much less traumatic things. So yeah, I love that. I think it's so important to recognize like how strong we are as humans and how much stronger we can be if we do things. It's literally the meditation. I keep thinking about this meditation. Actually, I've never looked forward to meditation before. The only time I enjoy meditation is when I'm maybe doing some yoga and the shavasana at the end, and I wouldn't even call it a meditation. I just quite enjoy like the feeling of the stillness. But I'm actually going to tomorrow morning, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to find my mantra, and I'm going to give myself I'm going to do 3 minutes. I know you said 15 minutes, but for me, if I went straight into 15 minutes, I would find that really, really tricky. So I'm going to try 3 minutes, and I'm going to see, if anybody else who's listening to this and you want to message me and say, I'm going to try the 3 minutes as well. Can we just go back to the mantra? I like details. I like to sort of just understand things.
Yeah, I can see that. That's good.
Yeah. Can we choose anything that works for us? Or is there something specific that works with our brain that's better?
I usually give beginners, I can handle this. I can handle this. I can handle this. But that's not a spiritual mantra. So a spiritual mantra needs to have some vibratory quality to it. All spiritual mantras have some vibratory qualities to them. So the mantra that I usually give, and you need to be careful with this because this can sometimes be very uncomfortable for some people. Some people can feel a little bit sick doing it. Some people can feel a bit dizzy. Maybe 5% of people will feel a bit sick or dizzy. And sometimes it can sort of agitate discomfort in the body. If there's some like blocked trauma or something, it can agitate that. So be careful. But it's basically a mantra you repeat silently in your head. And I'll repeat it now. Sounds a bit weird, but it's the sound I am. I am. It's like this. I am. Like that.
So it's like a chanting.
Yeah, but you're chanting it silently. You hear the voice in your head saying it.
Okay. Because normally it's that when you say the vibratory, because I do a bit of chanting through yoga, and it does something, I feel like it's like a cellular shift or something when you can hear it. So, I mean, could you chant it out loud?
You could, but I would use an Om chant for that. So like if you do an I am, what you're trying to do is create a very, very subtle object of attention. And what you'll feel is like with an om chant, like an om, the R is in the throat, the is in the chest, and the is in the belly. So it's vibrating like the chakras, basically. And it makes you, that's why you have this cellular shit. You just feel so unbelievably calm and like vibrant when you do that. Yeah. So that's one thing that can be done. And I do that quite regularly. That the I am mantra is an even subtler, that goes to a deeper part of you. And because it's so subtle, it's can send you into these. I mean, the only way I can describe it to a person who hasn't experienced it is the feeling just between awake and asleep. So you are awake, you're awake, you're aware, but the mind shuts down. Now, we're going very deep with what I'm about to say next. So, thing is, if the mind shuts down, but you're still there, then you start to realize that the mind is an inessential part of you. The only thing that's essential is awareness. And when that happens to you for the first time, you'll never be the same again. Ever. Because you realize,
I love this.
I've been taking advice from a crazy person, which was the voice in my head. And actually, I'm not even that voice. I'm something else altogether. And actually, that voice isn't essential to me at all. I don't even really need it to be there. So again, I am, like nice and long, focusing your attention on it, not worrying about the busy mind that can do whatever it wants, because remember, it's not you. See, because it's not you, you also really have no right to tell it what to do. You have no right to make it shush. You have no right to even make it say nice things. In fact, that would be fighting with the mind, which every single yogi ever has warned against. They say, never, ever, ever fight the mind. And what they mean by that is we don't want to try and make the mind say nice things. We want to turn our attention away from the mind so it learns that we're not interested in what it's got to say. And then, funnily enough, it will start to say nicer things to us.
So when we've done this, we've spent, say, an hour doing the different things in our morning, we're feeling less reactive, we're feeling a bit stronger, a bit like more resilient. We feel like we have kind of reclaimed a bit of, I don't even know, control's the word, but we are recognizing, we've gained awareness. We're recognizing that we don't need to listen to, like you say, the mind, because very often it can spew all sorts of crazy things. With imposter syndrome and telling us that we're not good enough, and comparisonitis, and with that anxiety and all of this. This is what I'm trying to say, is like, if we suffer from that every single day, this little bit of our morning routine can really have a knock-on effect, can't it, for the rest of the day? Are you doing anything else the rest of your day that is profound as your morning routine?
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned then imposter syndrome. What did you say? What was the other thing?
Comparisonitis.
Whatever else you want to call these things. Each one of those is mind. So each one of those is the mind, every single bit of it. So therefore, if I'm not mind, like, we solve the problem of all those things in one by then identifying with awareness rather than mind itself. So we begin our day disconnecting from the bit that's causing the problem. And then, of course, the day then begins, and then we hit challenges, and the voice comes back, and the comparisons come back, and everything, imposter syndrome, comes back again. So I do things like, I just do perspective shifts quite a lot. So like before this podcast began, I've got into a habit of doing this with all podcasts and all calls. I'll just quickly imagine myself as a tiny little speck on Earth, and think about that there are 8 billion other people all trying to do things. And I'll like zoom my awareness out again and look at the Earth just as this little marble in space, that kind of thing. So it's just like a total shit. Why would I do that? Because then I'm not thinking about myself. It's just as simple as that. There's nothing more complicated about it. Just about not thinking about myself. I'll do breathing all day. Even during this podcast, I've been doing it. Just a breath in, nice long breath out. Just one is fine. Things like that. And then there's this is very hard to explain, but for anyone listening, you've probably looked in the mirror today, right? So when you looked in the mirror, you saw your face, you saw your body wearing clothes, whatever, and it was today. You saw that image today. 10 years ago, you looked in the mirror and you would have seen a different face, a younger face. You'd have seen different clothes, a younger body. Maybe you were in a different room. Maybe the room was decorated differently. When you were 10, you looked in the mirror and you saw a 10-year-old wearing 10-year-old's clothes in a 10-year-old's bedroom. 3 different humans, but the one who was looking in the mirror is exactly the same. The same person is looking in the mirror, but they're looking at a different body. Go to that place within you. Go to the one who is looking in the mirror. So I'll even do this in the middle of coaching calls with people. If I notice my mind's getting distracted by some personal stuff that's not important and certainly isn't important for the client, I'll just quickly recognize, go to the one who's looking in the mirror. I'll even say that to myself. Do you understand? This is really weird, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Is it trying to help you? I mean, the way I'm kind of analyzing it is that, first of all, we all evolve and we all shift and we change. And that person, that version of me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, is an evolved version. But also it's allowing me to recognize that I'm not that person. So I don't have to align to that version of me.
It goes even deeper than that. It's
okay.
that we who are aware, the one that's aware of the voice speaking, the one who's aware of the voice speaking.
Okay.
You can hear, so if you say hello in your head 5 times now, you can hear that.
Yeah.
So how do you know you could hear it?
Because it was me.
Because you're in there. Yeah, because it's you. That could hear it isn't any different at all from the one who could hear it 10 years ago or the one who could hear it at 10 years old. What it's aware of has completely changed. But we as human beings identify too much with the bit that's changed and not enough with the bit that doesn't change. This is such an extremely deep subject that we can't go into in this short period of time. But for anyone who happens to be interested in this, go and search for Rupert Spira, Spira, on YouTube, and go and watch some of his videos talking about this.
I think what you do is brilliant, Joseph, because I would say you're an ADHD philosopher. I feel that you bring in these big concepts and help us connect the dots into why we have the brains that we do, the wiring that we do, because we're divergent thinkers. We are, and we don't want to do what we're told to do, and we see things differently. And it's okay for us to do that. Like you say, when you're around your friends and they're talking about different things and you kind of recognize they're good people, but actually you want to do and think differently. And so we should be able to express that. And I think there's going to be a lot of people listening today who kind of think, I want more of this. I really love these big conversations and these philosophies, and bringing these kind of, I would say, yeah, they are philosophies to my daily life. How can someone join your meditation group? How can someone work with you? Let's direct people to the best ways for you right now.
The best thing to do is just go to drugfreeadhd.org. And then on the homepage, you'll be able to subscribe to my newsletter. And in my newsletter, every week, there'll be a link to join something like the meditation group, or have one-to-one coaching with me, or come to a retreat or workshop or something like that. Definitely the best way to do it. And you can also have a search around on the website anyway for other things that you might want to do. Like, for example, join the meditation group now.
And last question, because I think people will be asking this, can they work with you if they do take medication?
They can. But most people come to me to get off of medication.
Okay.
But they can work with me. The only thing that's a little bit of a concern is cold exposure, because it's certainly an ice bath. I would not recommend getting in an ice bath on medication.
Okay.
Because the
That's
heart
really
rate's already
powerful.
raised, blood pressure's already raised. You're putting yourself at risk, like quite serious risk. So just be careful there. But you definitely want to speak to your doctor.
Yeah. I think what you do is brilliant, Joseph. I'm so happy that we had this second chat. I feel like we'll always keep coming back and chatting and kind of evolving even further. I want to come and do one of your retreats so we can talk about that. And thank you so much for sharing all your big thoughts and very practical, helpful strategies. It's great to have you back.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. It was great fun.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, I invite you to check out my brand new subscription podcast called The Toolkit. Now, this is where I'm going to be opening up my entire library, my vault of information from over the years, my workshops, webinars and courses, my conversations with experts about hormones, nutrition, lifestyle, and bringing brand new, up-to-date content from global experts. This is going to be an amazing resource for you to support you and guide you even more on more niche topics and conversations so you can really thrive and learn to live your best life with ADHD. I'm so excited about this. Please just check out It's the Toolkit on Apple Podcast and you get a free trial. Really hope to see you there.